segment this week called our underachievers and overachievers before we get to our game of the week. And our staff here came up with 3 underachieving teams last week. And who we came up with were, surprise, surprise, number 1, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, led by Charlie Weiss, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, coached by Bo Pelini, and the 3rd team that we felt was underachieving last week, the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by Jim Tressel. And Coach, who's your pick this week and why?
Well, I have to rule a few teams out here first. First of all, you know, Nebraska, and I'm starting to like this more and more, believe it or not. Nebraska played a couple of teams that I think they knew they could handle to get some kinks out, new coach in place. So they're not really an underachieving team. The score may have been close for a little bit, but they ended up blowing out both teams. So Nebraska's out for me. Ohio State, you know, they're going out to the West Coast to play the #1 team in the nation. Everybody knows that that's a big game, and maybe they're looking ahead a little bit. And Ohio University is a pretty good football team coached by Frank Solich, ex-Nebraska coach. Played a physical game, and you know, things were kind of close without their best player. So Ohio State's out for me. To me, it's got to be Notre Dame. I mean, San Diego State, are you kidding me? I mean, San Diego State could have won that football game, and I'm thinking, well, that's a laugher, 45-0, something like that, and Notre Dame barely pulls it out. Of course, coming off, a 3-9 season last year, things just aren't going right for Charlie the Wizard quite yet in Notre Dame.
Well, I'm going to agree with you that it's got to be Notre Dame, and being a Nebraska fan, it was 14-12 in the 4th quarter, but when you're a first-year coach and you're reestablishing the mess that was left him by Bill Callahan, you get a little bit more leeway, especially in your first year. Ohio State was playing without their best player in Beanie Wells, and let's be honest, they're college kids. They know what's coming on this Saturday. They're looking ahead, and Ohio University is well coached by Frank Solich. It's got to be Notre Dame. Maybe what Charlie needs to do is take his 3 Super Bowl rings and flash them in front of Rich Rodriguez this week. It'll help him out, but definitely underachieving. Some of the best talent in the nation. Their fans will tell you they don't have it, but every time you turn around, you're getting the best of this, the 2nd-ranked player at this position. And I am not anti-Notre Dame because that's what's going to be said, but it is very obvious they've got better talent than what they're showing on the field. They just appear to be taking on the pro mentality. And believe me, after having watched that, witnessed it personally at Nebraska for the last 4 or 5 years under Callahan, you can't do it at the college level. So it's a consensus from Coach and myself. The underachieving team of the week is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And before we get to our game of the week, we also want to introduce a new topic for this week. And we're going to talk about some issues that come up from time to time that occurred during the week in college football. And one that we're talking about today is going to be the excessive celebration rule, which cost Washington a chance to tie or possibly even beat Brigham Young last week. And we've got that clip queued up as you're watching it now. And here you see Washington's quarterback, Mr. Locker, going in for a touchdown here, throws the ball over his head in celebration and gets flagged.
Well, you know, the thing of it is, it's a tight ball game. I watched the game on TV. It was a really great game. They're battling. They're going back and forth. Kid, you know, basically runs in for what's going to be a tying touchdown and a chance to go into overtime. He's excited. That's what football's all about. It's an exciting game. He throws the football up in the air. His teammates come around and celebrate with him as a team. He wasn't taunting anyone. He wasn't, you know, trying to stand out as an individual. He's excited. They throw the flag. It's terrible.
Well, the rule reads, Coach, that it's excessive celebration, which leads to taunting. If you're taunting or calling attention to yourself, clearly, as you watch that clip, neither one of them occurred. The referee said he had to throw the flag based on another part of the rule, which talks about throwing the ball up in the air. This is ridiculous.
It's a no call. Everybody that knows football knows it's a no call. The ref, they should fine the ref for this one.
I mean, some of the officials, again, and they have a tough job in their own right, but to come in and take the game out of the hands on a play like that, if he throws the ball at an opponent, if he puts it in his face, if he spikes the ball, hey, that's a done deal. But Come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. Mac Brown and several other coaches who have served on the committee have spoken out throughout this past week saying that the rule has to be looked at, and I agree with that.
And the thing is, on top of that, Tyrone Willingham's fighting for his life out there in Washington. Would have been a nice win for him. Maybe they'd gone for 2 and won the football game, and he beats a ranked team. Good start for him, but instead, it's spoiled.
Absolutely. Our game of the week has the number 5 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes traveling to California, Southern California, that is, Coach, to take on the number 1 ranked Pete Carroll-led USC Trojans, who are 1-0 on the season. Ohio State obviously 2-0. This is a big game, the game of the week, and as always, we took our cameras out to our student body and staff to see what their opinions would be.
I say the score is going to be 28-14 Trojans.
I'm going to say the Trojans are going to pull this one out. Ohio State had trouble against Ohio last week, and they're going to spank them.
USC, because Ohio State's really hurting without Beanie Wells.
Definitely Ohio State, because they're the underdogs and they're going to want it more.
Mr. Williamson,
Yes.
can we bother you for a pick for Ohio
Sure.
State USC this weekend?
I'm going to say USC going away.
What kind of score?
28-7.
28-7.
Yeah,
Anybody
blowout.
else? Anybody else want to make a pick?
4.
4-2.
4-2.
What is it?
All right, so it's football.
Morning signs.
Whatever.
USC has more pretty colors,
So I'll give you
so they're gonna win.
22.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State. USC. Ohio State.
Well, I may be 0-2, but you can put this one in the bank. Ohio State 20, USC 17. Count on it.
Coach, a great game this week. Many people have called it the non-conference sectional matchup, game of the year, game of the decade, game of all time. You have the surfboard image, Pete Carroll, loose and fancy-free versus the uptight, sweater vest, studious professor like Jim Tressel, and a lot of good subplots to this game. What do you think?
Well, I think the game's going to be a very physical game. I know USC has this surfboard, surf guy image going on out there, but when they played Virginia, they really were physical in the run game and obviously played good defense and shellacked Virginia at home.
Yeah, with those surfboards, they shellacked them
yeah.
to the tune of 50-some points.
Right, and I think the game has the chance of being a really good classic matchup because of Ohio State's defense. But I really think USC has a little bit too much for them, and I think the Trojans will play fight on a little bit more than Ohio State will be playing their fight song. Sorry, Mr. Farr, I'm not quite sure what that is, but I like USC in this one at home. I just think they have a little bit too much for USC on the road. Traditionally, historically, the Big Ten has not done well on the West Coast. USC at the Coliseum, too much.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Before Beanie Wells injured his foot against Youngstown State, as I said earlier, everybody thought this was going to be a classic matchup. But I say nay. If you look at some of these statistics that we've got, Trojans ranked 11th in the nation in total defense, 7th in the nation in total offense, 7th in scoring offense, 10th in scoring defense, 9th overall ranked performer in quarterback Mark Sanchez, not to mention a fantastic band and awesome cheerleaders. Now, you look at all of that, put it all together, and the fact that Ohio State has to travel west, play on grass, which is going to make them even slower, and I don't see any way Ohio State dots the I Saturday night with or without their beanie on. I think Pete Carroll's Trojans come out on top, and the Buckeyes go back east at 2-1. That's going to do it for SWTV's College Football Show for week number 3. Take care.